Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 31, Go Ahead and Explode. Now, the SSN is under the control of Team Rocket. We're currently in uncharted waters, and it would take at least 2 hours to reach the nearest land. Archer continued to reassure the passengers with his calm voice. He knew that some stubborn passengers would definitely try to find a way to call for help, but that didn't matter. To ensure this operation went off without a hitch, the entire ship had been equipped with communication jammers. There was no way for phone calls or text messages to get through. Even if someone managed to transmit a bit of location data through a special device, the SSN's route was completely random, and it would take time to locate them in the vast ocean. Upon hearing Archer's words, some of the more delicate women began to sob, despair spreading among the passengers. Aren't they just lambs to the slaughter for Team Rocket now? Then I believe everyone understands. Please immediately hand over your Pokemon and wait patiently for the SSN to dock. Archer watched the scene through the monitor, a dark smile curling at the corners of his mouth. Are you kidding me? If we give up our Pokemon, won't you be able to do whatever you want to us? This is definitely a scam. Without our Pokemon, we have no way to protect ourselves. The passengers weren't foolish. Their Pokemon were their last line of defense against Team Rocket. Without their Pokemon, they'd be helpless, completely at Team Rocket's mercy. Everyone, please calm down. Archer seemed completely unfazed, still speaking in a composed and unhurried tone. Don't get excited. I understand your feelings, truly. But please, take a look at this. Archer gently soothed the passengers, gesturing for them to look ahead with a faint smile. A large screen descended from the ceiling and lit up, displaying a scene to everyone. Hiss. The sound of people gasping filled the room, and many began to break out in cold sweat. Even Brock and Misty had their pupils contract sharply. Eileen tightly grasped Dylan's hand. Dylan gently patted Eileen's arm. He could feel that Eileen's body was trembling slightly. She was clearly scared. And rightly so, because the scene on the screen was of the cargo hold of the SSN. But the hold was filled with Voltorb and Electrode. Who doesn't know these Pokemon? They're notorious for self-destructing at the slightest provocation, and now the cargo hold was crammed full of them, all in a deep sleep. If one of them were to self-destruct, it would definitely trigger a chain reaction. How could they dare to do this? Misty's eyes widened in disbelief, fear making her voice pitch sharply. Team Rocket's madness truly lives up to its reputation, Dylan muttered in disbelief. This was exactly the kind of crazy stunt you'd expect from the largest criminal organization in Kanto, Team Rocket. This is... Ash was stunned. They've probably used some special drug to keep the Electrode and Voltorb in a deep sleep. They wouldn't dare wake them up, Brock said, trying to remain calm, though he hadn't noticed his voice was trembling. This wasn't a joke. If that cargo hold full of Electrode and Voltorb were to explode, the entire massive SSN would be blown to smithereens, and everyone on board would be reduced to ashes. Even Team Rocket wouldn't go that far, would they? There's no need for such madness. But no one would dare take that risk. This is a game of life and death, Dylan nodded in agreement. Archer's tactic was indeed highly effective. The psychological pressure on the passengers was now immense. There was no way they'd gamble against Team Rocket. What if the worst did happen? You only get one life, and once it's gone, everything's over. At this moment, they finally understood why Team Rocket was considered an evil organization. Red remained silent, his eyes fixed on the screen, his gaze flickering with a serious expression. He was strong, but even he had limits. If those Voltorb and Electrode really did explode in a chain reaction, the devastation would be unimaginable. I believe everyone has calmed down. If you don't cooperate, hee. Archer's laugh was low and grating. But you can all rest assured, as long as you cooperate, we'll definitely get you back safely. In the captain's cabin, Archer's face twisted into a sneer, contrasting with the passengers in the hall. He was in a very good mood. Giving them despair, then giving them hope, that's how fragile the human mind can be. And this time, the hall fell silent. Well, let's begin. As Archer's words fell, the Team Rocket members in the hall started moving forward with bags in hand, preparing to collect the passengers' pokeballs. Satisfied that everything in the hall was going according to plan, Archer nodded approvingly. Archer, we've located the target, a Team Rocket subordinate reported. Good. I hope Proton and that other guy succeed. This mission must not fail, Archer nodded. He wasn't interested in the passengers' Pokemon, ordinary ones weren't worth his time. This was just a distraction. To ensure everything went smoothly, not only had he and another executive, Proton, personally attended, but one of the 3 admins had also been called in. It's worth noting that the 3 admins were the boss's secret weapons. They couldn't be used unless absolutely necessary, and revealing them would be a huge loss for Team Rocket. Tell Proton to wrap things up quickly. Archer stood up and instructed the subordinate. Proton and the admin's tasks were important, but he also had another crucial matter to attend to. Yes, sir. The Team Rocket subordinate responded and quickly left the captain's cabin. What's going on? But just then, Archer noticed chaos unfolding in the hall through the monitor. The passengers and Team Rocket members were fighting? Weren't things under control? How did this happen in the time it took him to give a few instructions? Were these passengers not afraid of death? How dare they resist? Archer's expression darkened. Not even the threat of Voltorb and Electrode had cowed these people? But Archer couldn't really wake up those Pokemon. While this mission was important, it wasn't worth risking their lives over. Damn it! Archer cursed under his breath, grabbing his Houndoom and quickly heading in a certain direction. He had more important matters to handle. There was no time to deal with those damned passengers now. Once his own task was complete, he would make sure those passengers understood what it meant to face a Team Rocket executive. Meanwhile, in the hall. Wow, Ash really is something else. Dylan glanced at Ash, who was now brimming with energy as he commanded Pikachu in a battle against a mook. Archer's plan wasn't wrong, but he had overlooked a special individual. Someone who didn't care about threats and whose sense of justice and passion were infectious. One rousing speech from Ash had woken the passengers up and sparked their rebellion. As for the threat of the Voltorb? It was just that, a threat. If you have the guts, go ahead and explode. Chapter 32, Darkrai. At this moment, the SSN was in complete chaos. Various Pokemon were engaged in an all-out battle in the main hall, with Team Rocket clashing fiercely against the trainers. Evil Team Rocket. I'll defeat you right now. Pikachu. Use Thunder Shock. Charmander, Ember. Ash, full of energy, commanded his 2 Pokemon. Electricity sparked from Pikachu as it shot out a stream of lightning, while Charmander puffed up its belly and spat out small fireballs. Heh, kid, do you think such weak attacks can make a difference? A Team Rocket member smirked disdainfully, his shadowy face filled with scorn. The Thunder Shock and Ember hit the floating Weezing, but it only wobbled slightly, barely affected. This Weezing was quite strong. This Team Rocket member was one of the top in the hall. Damn it! Ash gritted his teeth, feeling the pressure. Let me show you what real power is. The Team Rocket member sneered, about to boast, when a sudden, fierce flame surged at Weezing, engulfing it completely. After an explosion, Weezing, charred black and emitting smoke, crashed to the ground with spinning eyes. It was taken down in one hit? The Team Rocket member was stunned. Red. Ash looked overjoyed at Red, who wasn't far away. It was his Charizard's flamethrower that had just taken down Weezing. Red adjusted his cap, glancing at the still-dazed Team Rocket member. Who does this guy think he is, trying to bully my little brother? Damn it! The Team Rocket member finally snapped back to reality, taking 2 steps back, gritting his teeth. Damn, there's a big shot here. On the other side. If this Charizard were in the game, it'd be at least level 45, maybe even Elite 4 level. And it's not even May yet. This guy's a total monster, Dylan mused, glancing at Red and Ash while battling a Team Rocket member. Watching the powerful Charizard dominate the battlefield, knocking out opponents like they were nothing, he couldn't help but sigh. The gap between people is even bigger than the gap between humans and dogs. There were still 6 months until the Indigo League, yet Red was already at the level of an Elite 4 trainer. No doubt, by the end of the year, Red would reach champion level. But luckily, Dylan had his own advantages, including a trump card he carried with him. Dylan shifted his gaze to the 3 Team Rocket members in front of him. Noticing his look, the 3 Team Rocket members instinctively took a step back, their bodies tense and sweating. "Aren't you going to attack?" Dylan asked curiously, puzzled by their ghostly expressions. The 3 Team Rocket members, already pale, turned even whiter when they saw the 2 Pokémon in front of Dylan. A terrifying Arbok, over 4 meters long, was hissing menacingly at them. They knew this Arbok well. The other was a sinister black, humanoid lizard with a long, wicked grin that seemed to stretch to its eyes, a truly terrifying sight. It was a Salazzle, the evolved form of Salandit. After some time of training, Dylan's Pokémon had grown significantly stronger, with several evolving. We're out of Pokémon. They've all been defeated. Maybe you could go deal with someone else, the tall Rocket member in the middle suggested nervously, trying to smile through his fear. Whose idea was it to bring such a terrifying trainer onto the ship? All of their Pokémon had been taken out by Arbok and Salazzle. How could they possibly attack? Should they just throw themselves at him? Eileen watched the 3 Rocket members with a strange look. So these were the notorious Team Rocket members. But if I'm not mistaken, each of you has only used 3 Pokémon, Dylan said, raising an eyebrow. Bro, we really don't have any left. We're not exactly proper trainers, so we didn't fill our teams, the chubby Rocket member on the left said with a pained expression. Is Team Rocket's treatment that bad? They don't even give you a full roster, Dylan remarked, genuinely feeling sorry for their lousy treatment. Yeah. Team Rocket sucks, it's not worth staying. The skinny Rocket member on the right nodded vigorously. The other 2 Rocket members. All right then, Dylan said, amused, not pressing them any further. Remember to study hard, be a good citizen, and stay away from Team Rocket. They have no future, look to the League instead. Why yes, you're absolutely right. We'll definitely be good people from now on. If anyone dares bully a kid, I'll smack them myself. The tall, chubby, and skinny Rocket members all swore fervently. These guys are pretty funny, Dylan chuckled, watching them flee. Dylan, you're amazing, Eileen said happily, feeling completely at ease with Dylan around. These were just grunts, we can't let our guard down yet, Dylan cautioned, recalling Arbok while keeping Salazzle out for protection in the chaotic situation. Compared to the regular Rocket members, Archer was the real threat on this ship. Dylan pondered for a moment. Although he had a powerful ace up his sleeve, it wasn't easy to get it to act. In that case. Red, Ash, Dylan called, walking toward them. Red's Charizard was simply too strong, having defeated almost all of the Rocket members in the area. Red turned his head, his red eyes glimmering as he gazed at Dylan. It wasn't just Dylan who had been observing Red, Red had also been watching Dylan during the battle. Dylan was strong. Brock and Misty also approached. Wow, Dylan, you're incredible. I saw you easily take down 3 Rocket members just now, Misty said in awe, especially eyeing Dylan's Arbok. It was incredibly well developed, with a deep, chilling aura that was anything but ordinary. Not bad, Dylan replied humbly. Dylan is a gym leader at the Rhoda Gym, so of course, he's strong, Eileen added with a proud smile, her voice as gentle as ever but laced with undeniable pride. What? Dylan, you're a gym leader? Ash was shocked, while Brock seemed to have recognized the name Rhoda Gym. Is it the Rhoda Gym in Rhoda? Brock asked with a strange look. Yes, Ash, Red, you should challenge it sometime, Dylan said with a smile. Sure. I'll definitely challenge it. Ash said excitedly. Who would have thought his friend was a gym leader? He had to take on the challenge. Red nodded as well, sensing Dylan's strength. A gym like that was definitely worth challenging. You're always welcome, but for now, let's focus on the task at hand, Dylan said, glancing at the ongoing battle between passengers and Rocket members. The situation in the hall is under control, but Archer hasn't shown up yet, so we can't be careless. He's an executive of Team Rocket and a very dangerous man. We need to find Archer. Red and I will search for him, while Ash, you stay here and continue helping the passengers. How does that sound? Dylan laid out his plan. Archer, one of the 4 executives of Team Rocket, was likely not at champion level but was probably on par with the Elite Four. He and Red should be able to take him down. If they could defeat Archer, they could reclaim the SSN from Team Rocket. Okay, Red agreed. Beating all the regular Rocket members here wouldn't matter if Archer wasn't dealt with. He was the real target. Meanwhile, on the other side of the SSN. Boom! Dark Pulse and Thunderbolt clashed violently, but the next moment, a ghostly purple figure with 2 pairs of wings glowing white dived swiftly, slamming into the nightmare-like Pokemon. Darkrai grunted as it was knocked back. Tobias' face darkened as he looked at the 2 figures before him. A fierce-looking Raichu and a Crobat with flashing wings. An executive like Proton, and an unknown Elite Four level trainer. I'm honored, Tobias said solemnly. Given that you're Darkrai's trainer, we had to be careful. We're not really bad people, Proton said with a playful grin, twirling a Pokeball and looking at Tobias and his Darkrai. His grin widened. If you hand over Darkrai, we won't harm you. How does that sound? Darkrai. The mythical Pokemon. Team Rocket wanted it badly. Chapter 33, Let Go of That Old Man. Are you really here for my Darkrai? Tobias frowned. He had already sent a signal to his grandfather through a special communication device, and someone was definitely on their way. But first, he had to hold on until then. After all, Mr. Tobias, your Darkrai is quite tempting, Proton licked his lips. Having Darkrai in your hands, Mr. Tobias, is a bit of a waste. It could have a better trainer, don't you think? Although Proton still used a respectful tone, the sarcasm in his words was evident. What does that mean? Are you looking down on me? Impossible. Just the 2 of you think you can take my Darkrai? Even Tobias, who was usually calm, was now enraged. Trying to take his Darkrai and mocking him as an unworthy trainer? Who do you think you are? No need to waste words with him, just knock him down and complete the mission. A deep voice sounded another Rocket executive, this one tall and burly. But it was clear that he was in disguise, wearing a large hat and sunglasses that covered most of his face, making it difficult to see his features clearly. If Mr. Tobias is unwilling, it's truly regrettable, so please excuse us. Proton's face was filled with malicious intent. Having a legendary Darkrai but only being at the executive level? Who wouldn't take it from him? It's his fault for being too weak. Yes, Proton was very good at justifying his actions. In the hall. But do you know where Archer is? Misty asked. The suggestion made sense. To defeat Team Rocket, they had to confront Archer. If there's no surprise, Archer should be in the captain's cabin. He was there when he talked to us before. And we can also capture some Rocket grunts to interrogate them, they probably know. Dylan spoke up. Archer's previous speech had definitely been from the captain's cabin, but Dylan couldn't be sure if Archer was still there now. But that wasn't a big problem. At worst, he could have Arbok scare those Rocket members, someone was bound to know. I know where Archer is. I can take you there. Suddenly, a lively female voice came from behind them. Dylan and the others turned to see a girl in a black dress. With a pure and delicate white face, her figure accentuated by the black dress, and long brown hair flowing down, she was a very pretty girl. Dylan raised an eyebrow. I just came from the hallway and happened to see Archer. I can take you to him. The girl in the black dress smiled brightly, her voice full of energy, seemingly unaffected by the surrounding environment. Who are you? Ash was straightforward. Leah, Cerulean Leah, but you can call me Leah. Leah glanced casually at Ash, then focused on Red and Dylan. Don't you trust me? You suddenly pop up and say you can take us to Archer, who would trust you so easily. Dylan couldn't help but internally retort, though he knew Leah could be trusted. Even though I know you shouldn't trust someone of unknown origin, I really hate Team Rocket. Look at this. Leah pulled out a key and waved it with a smile. This is the key to the ship's hold. I sneaked in and took it, along with the special potion to awaken the Voltorb. Archer is no longer there. If you go, you'll only find an empty room. Hearing this, Brock and the others' eyes lit up. The key to the hold? That was great. The hold was filled with Voltorb and Electrode, ticking time bombs. Now they could be much more at ease. Then we'll leave it to you. Dylan nodded. Red glanced at Dylan, then nodded as well. There was no other choice now but to trust this girl named Leah. Ash, you stay here. Eileen is not a trainer, so please protect her, Dylan requested of Ash and the group. Don't worry, Dylan. We won't let anything happen to Eileen. Leave it to us, and you be careful too. Ash and Misty responded immediately. Even though they said that, Dylan still handed 2 Pokeballs to Eileen. He believed Ash would keep his word. But honestly, Dylan had to admit that Ash's strength was still lacking, and Brock and Misty weren't much stronger either. Red was momentarily surprised but then understood, handing Ash the Pokeballs for Venusaur and Blastoise as well. This would completely ensure Ash's safety. Leah, meanwhile, watched with a smile, though a hint of envy and complex emotions briefly flickered in her eyes before she quickly concealed them. Always prioritize your safety, Ash. Don't get carried away. Misty, Brock, keep an eye on him. Dylan couldn't help but add a final warning. Huh? What does that mean? Ash was a bit annoyed. Was he really that untrustworthy? Don't worry, leave it to us. Misty patted her chest confidently, and Brock solemnly agreed. You be careful too. After all, they were up against a high-ranking Team Rocket executive, so naturally, they were a bit worried. With goodbyes exchanged, Dylan and Red followed Leah, running out of the hall. There was little resistance along the way. Most of the rocket grunts had been sent to the hall, leaving the outside almost unguarded. The few they encountered were easily defeated by Dylan's Arbok. What an impressive Arbok! By the way, are you really a trainer from Rhoda Gym? The reputation of Rhoda Gym isn't like this. Leah clicked her tongue in amazement at the strength of Dylan's Arbok and couldn't help but ask, intrigued by how strong it was. Arbok wasn't typically a particularly strong Pokemon, certainly not on par with pseudo-legendaries, and not many trainers focused on raising one. As far as Leah knew, only Agatha, one of Kanto's Elite Four, used Arbok as a main Pokemon. It was said that Agatha's Arbok was extraordinarily powerful. If you've seen the current reviews of the gym, you'll find that there are some positive ones. My goal is to make Rhoda Gym famous in Kanto. Dylan smiled. That may be, but those reviews seem a bit off. Leah blinked, hinting at something. Those so-called positive reviews didn't seem genuine to her. Red listened, somewhat confused, but he wasn't good with words or social interactions, so he remained silent and aloof. Dylan paused, giving Leah a thoughtful look. With communications on the ship being jammed, they couldn't browse the internet on their phones. How did Leah know what those reviews were like? Did she check before boarding? But what did Rhoda Gym have to do with her? We're here. This is the place. The 3 of them finally arrived at a room. Leah signaled for silence and pointed to the door. They didn't enter right away because Archer seemed to be talking to someone inside. Dr. Fuji, why resist? Archer's calm, composed voice could be heard. The organization has never mistreated you, yet you betrayed us. The boss has already said that if you return to Team Rocket, past grievances can be forgiven. What do you say? Fuji? Dylan immediately recognized the name. Forget it. My greatest regret is listening to Team Rocket's lies and creating Mutwo. A calm yet weary voice replied. That's truly unfortunate, but I believe you'll change your mind, Dr. Fuji. Did you really think we didn't know where you went after betraying the organization? You. Dr. Fuji, you understand, don't you? Just hand over the research data on Mutwo, and I can guarantee that those adorable children won't be harmed. Archer's voice remained elegant and composed. You despicable scum. Dr. Fuji was furious. Thank you for the compliment. But remember, Dr. Fuji, this situation is your doing, isn't it? Archer chuckled softly. Well, Dr. Fuji, we've discussed everything. Please come with me now, I have other matters to attend to. Archer was satisfied, seeing that Dr. Fuji seemed to have given up. However, bang! The door behind them was suddenly kicked open, and a clear, lively female voice rang out. Let go of that old man. Chapter 34, Are you ready to go to jail? Let go of that old man. As this sentence fell, the entire room went silent. Professor Fuji, the old man, looked in astonishment at the two men and one woman who barged in. The boss of the SSN's dungeon, Archer, was equally stunned, staring blankly at the three teenagers in front of him. Dylan and Red exchanged strange looks, staring at Leah's back. She's really something, Dylan couldn't help but whisper. Red, blank stare. Archer finally snapped out of it, his face twitching irregularly as he gave the three unexpected guests a sinister smile. His dark face now looked particularly eerie. All right. Not only did those useless subordinates fail to take care of the passengers, but they also let three little brats come here and show off in front of me? Archer felt his temper rising. 1, 2, 3 little ones, didn't your parents teach you not to interrupt your elders when they're discussing important matters? Archer slowly turned around, one hand behind his back, as a sinister smile crept across his lips. The menacing Houndoom had already slowly walked to Archer's side, glaring fiercely at the three. Dylan and Red exchanged glances and took 2 steps back. Sorry, but I don't have such an ugly elder like you, so don't try to act close. Today, the three of us are here to uphold justice. Archer, are you ready to go to jail? Leah, with her hands on her hips, declared righteously, causing Archer's face to twitch again. What a sharp-tongued girl. Very well, disobedient children need to be properly taught. Archer's expression darkened completely. Leah's words nearly made him laugh out of anger. Were kids today really this arrogant? He was one of Team Rocket's top executives, even arguably the leader among them, the boss's most trusted subordinate. And these little brats thought they could send him to jail? Dylan. Red. Seeing Archer's expression, Leah knew something was off, but it didn't matter. Though she admitted she definitely couldn't beat Archer, she had 2 strong allies. When she returned to the hall, she saw that Dylan and Red were both much stronger than her. You guys? But when she turned around, Leah was stunned. At some point, Dylan and Red had already stepped out of the room and were standing in the hallway. How could you do this? Ha Houndoom. The menacing Houndoom at Archer's side stepped forward, its mouth glowing with a fiery red light. Leah reacted quickly, immediately turning around to run. A fire-type flamethrower. A surge of scorching flames shot out, directly aimed at Leah. Dylan! Your Arbok is just standing there doing nothing. Leah quickly shouted. She could already feel the heat waves behind her. Though her skin was protected by a ditto, and she had a Wartortle's pokeball in her hand and other pokeballs hidden in her chest, it didn't stop her from pretending to be a soft and innocent girl. Arbok, throw chop. Dylan couldn't help but chuckle as he ordered Arbok. Arbok swiftly lashed out with its tail, coiled in dark energy, and fiercely struck at the incoming flamethrower. The dark-type throat chop. Boom! With a loud bang, the flames were shattered by the powerful throat chop. Oh! Archer was somewhat surprised by this. Phew, that was close. Leah retreated to Dylan and Red's side, patting her chest in relief. You guys are so mean. I offended that guy on your behalf, and you just left me. Leah glared at the two. How could they do this? Blank stare asterisk red. The room's too small to fight in properly, and you seem to be having fun, Dylan said with a smirk as he looked at Leah. Humph. Leah crossed her arms and huffed, but now wasn't the time to argue. I underestimated you three. You dared to show up in front of me, so you must have some skill. Archer elegantly stepped out of the room, his gaze focusing on Dylan and the silent Red. As for the pretty girl, he had already dismissed her as a show-off. Where's your sharp tongue now? Why aren't you saying anything? Dylan glanced at Leah, who pouted and turned her head away. Mr. Archer of Team Rocket, if we capture you and hand you over to Officer Jenny, the League's reward should be quite substantial. With the sharp-tongued girl sulking, Dylan had to take the lead. Saying a few words before fighting the boss is a classic ritual. Probably. Archer seemed to agree, nodding slightly. His bounty with the League was indeed quite high. But only if you can do it. It's rare to encounter such powerful kids, so as a senior, I'll give you a chance. Archer had found his rhythm, confidently walking to the other end of the hallway before turning around, with Houndoom facing Dylan and the others. Come, just defeat me. Archer released another pokeball, and a wheezing floated beside Houndoom. Dylan raised an eyebrow. Was Archer really that confident? Are there any other executives on this ship? Dylan whispered to Leah. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I already notified Officer Jenny in Vermilion City, they should be on their way. Leah whispered back. You can't wander the world without a few tricks up your sleeve, right? The communication interference didn't stop her from sending out a distress signal. Dylan thought for a moment. Red, I'll handle Houndoom. You take care of Wheezing. Can you do that? Red nodded, releasing his Charizard. As expected, today's kids really are monsters. Archer scrutinized Charizard, feeling the heavy, scorching pressure, his expression shifting slightly. This Charizard was definitely stronger than that Arbok. His intuition was spot on. Archer glanced subtly at the room, his brow furrowing slightly. Professor Fuji was of critical importance, nothing could go wrong. But with these three teenagers, it was impossible to take Professor Fuji away quietly. He had no choice but to battle them. However, Archer was confident. Would a top executive of Team Rocket lose to a couple of kids who didn't look older than 18? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. There's no way he would lose. Old man, come over here. Seeing that her two strong allies were ready for battle, Leah quickly waved to the old man inside the room. Oh. Dr. Fuji was a bit dazed, but he understood the situation and hurried to Leah's side, hiding behind Dylan and Red with her. In the hallway, the tension grew even heavier. Dylan. Red. Go take down that ugly guy. Leah, the mischievous girl, pulled out two support sticks from who knows where, cheering on the two in front. Archer, ? Red, face with open mouth. Dylan's eyelid twitched. Only Leah could pull something like this. Today, I'll show you what a real trainer's battle looks like. Archer believed he hadn't been affected by the female clown, standing tall with one hand behind his back, a sinister smile on his lips as if he had everything under control. 1 versus 2, the advantage is mine. Chapter 35, Mental Pollution. Meanwhile, on the other side. Darkrai slammed heavily against the wall, its breath already extremely weak. Darkrai. Tobias was startled and looked at Proton and the mysterious trainer opposite him, his face turning pale. With Darkrai down, he had no other fighting power left. Oh my, it seems Mr. Tobias, you're done for. Proton nonchalantly fiddled with his fingers, grinning as he looked at Tobias. Tobias gritted his teeth. You two, as elite-level trainers, actually teamed up against me. Shameless. Tobias's eyes were bloodshot. If it were one-on-one, he wouldn't have lost. But facing two trainers at once, unable to defend both ends, he really couldn't hold on. Darkrai, as a mythical Pokémon, was indeed powerful,
and its physical strength surpassed that of ordinary Pokemon.
But aside from Darkrai, his other main forces couldn't cope.
Damn it!
Where's the League's rescue team?
Ha! Mr. Tobias, you must be out of your mind. We're from Team Rocket, you know.
Proton laughed loudly, even clutching his stomach, making Tobias so angry he could barely contain himself.
This was blatant mockery.
Stop wasting time with him, hurry up and recall Darkrai.
I need to leave,
the burly man said irritably. He was here at Archer's request, and if not for his good relationship with Archer, he wouldn't have bothered coming. After all, there was a risk of exposure.
Don't rush, don't rush. We're almost done here. Don't you think this is fun?
Proton wasn't in a hurry, even stepping towards Tobias. The burly man's eyebrows tightened under his sunglasses, seemingly understanding Proton's intentions.
This guy was truly wicked.
However, the burly man didn't stop him. After all, they were colleagues. Though as a rocket executive, he and Proton, one of the 4 rocket executives, belonged to different ranks, they were both subordinates of the boss.
What are you trying to do?
Tobias instinctively stepped back as Proton approached, but then turned to see Proton's Crobat already hovering close by, far too close.
Tobias could even see Crobat's sharp fangs, which sent chills down his spine. Now, Mr. Tobias, we've been quite reasonable, haven't we? I didn't even let my Pokemon ambush you.
Proton stopped in his tracks, looking at Tobias's pale face, grinning with a sigh.
Tell you what, Mr. Tobias, I'll give you one more chance.
A malicious smile appeared on Proton's rather handsome face.
The poison on Crobat's fangs is potent.
If you don't get the antidote in timely treatment, Mr. Tobias, your life could be in danger.
You. Tobias was both angry and scared. How dare this guy? Shh, quiet, listen to me, okay? We're Team Rocket, we can do anything.
Proton made a shushing gesture.
Tobias clenched his fists but remained silent, seething with humiliation. A Pokemon is a trainer's most important partner and companion. Even I believe that.
Though I disregard other Pokemon, I care deeply about my own.
Proton leisurely began speaking.
So, I want to know, dear Mr. Tobias, is Darkrai more important to you, or is your own life more important? Proton smiled, his gleaming white teeth sending chills down one's spine.
Tobias's pupils shrank.
From the corner, Darkrai, too injured to move, turned its blue eyes towards Tobias.
Think carefully before you answer. You only get one chance, and I can't guarantee what might happen if you choose wrongly.
Proton smiled maliciously, his tone still friendly, but the cold light in his eyes made the hair on one's neck stand up.
Tobias's face turned deathly pale. This.
The burly man glanced at Tobias, then at Proton, with a hint of disdain in his eyes. Proton, despite his rather handsome appearance and polite, gentlemanly demeanor when interacting with others, was, in truth, the coldest and most ruthless among the 4 rocket executives.
In the burly man's view, Proton, with his pathological personality, could easily be ranked alongside Ariana. Ariana was arrogant, hot-tempered, and extremely cruel, a detestable person. And now, Proton was clearly tormenting Tobias. Choose between your own life or Darkrai? This was a deadly dilemma. Did Tobias really think he wouldn't abandon Darkrai? The burly man didn't think so. He had seen too many people like Tobias, psychologically fragile despite their arrogance. And Proton wanted to see that result, Tobias's extreme humiliation and anger when he gave the answer. Proton really was a psycho. The burly man turned his head, not wanting to see anymore.
Though he didn't consider himself a good person, he definitely didn't want to be paired with Proton on missions in the future.
In another hallway. Arbok. Dylan called out to Arbok. Arbok raised its body, its cold snake eyes staring down Houndoom and wheezing, exuding a commanding presence.
An invisible pressure spread, and the white glow surrounding Houndoom and wheezing dissipated. This was Arbok's Intimidate ability, which could lower the opponent's attack by 1 stage. A very useful ability.
Houndoom, Flamethrower.
Archer maintained his elegant demeanor.
Being intimidated didn't matter, as Houndoom primarily relied on special attack in battle. Although Weezing's decreased attack was a bit troublesome, it wasn't a big deal. Houndoom's mouth glowed with a fiery red light, and it unleashed a powerful flamethrower at Arbok and Charizard. This flamethrower was noticeably stronger than before. Flamethrower! Red commanded in a deep voice. Charizard roared, unleashing an equally intense stream of flames. The two flamethrowers clashed heavily in the center of the corridor, neither overpowering the other, eventually causing an explosion. Smoke and dust rose up. Charizard! Red's red eyes remained calm and bright as the battle continued. Charizard flapped its wings, charging toward the opposite side under the cover of the smoke, with Arbok following closely behind. Weezing, Sludge Bomb! Archer was clearly prepared. Weezing let out a low growl, launching a series of sludge bombs. A poison-type move, Sludge Bomb. Flamethrower! Charizard opened its mouth again, breathing in and unleashing a burning column of fire. The flames clashed violently with the sludge, but this time, Charizard's fire clearly overpowered the sludge bomb. However, as Weezing detonated the sludge, another explosion rang out. Houndoom, roar! Getting close wasn't going to be easy. Archer smirked as he ordered Houndoom to roar, but just as Houndoom was about to use the move. Glare! A large cobra suddenly sprang out from behind Charizard, its abdomen markings glowing with an eerie light. A normal-type move, Glare! Archer was taken aback. Houndoom instinctively looked at Arbok, and in its eyes, those eerie markings seemed to be spinning. Suddenly, its body froze completely. Electric arcs flickered around Houndoom's body, it was paralyzed. This was the effect of Glare. Once hit, the target would be paralyzed. And paralysis, causing stiffness and immobility, was fatal in battle. Archer frowned, this was becoming troublesome. But what really irritated him? The observing Leah's eyes lit up. That glare was impressive. At the same time, Leah wasn't idle, using her out-of-battle mental pollution move. Nice one, Dylan. Archer's really lame, huh? Getting caught like that. Leah giggled, deliberately raising her voice so Archer could hear. Is that it? Is that it? No way, no way? Is that all Rocket Executive Archer can do? The sarcastic tone even made Dr. Fuji's eyes change, and Red couldn't help but glance back at Leah. This girl. Dylan, amazing. Red, dot. And Archer, his face began twitching uncontrollably again. This annoying woman's voice was really getting on his nerves. Archer glared coldly at the woman waving her cheer stick. Noticing his gaze, Leah didn't flinch at all and even made a face at Archer, sticking her tongue out. Don't get mad, don't get mad. She's just a little clown. Archer kept comforting himself, but his mood was definitely getting worse. No one had ever dared to mock him like this. But Archer forced himself to stay calm. That annoying woman was clearly using this underhanded tactic to mess with his mindset. Ridiculous. As a Rocket executive, how could he possibly? Dr. Fuji, don't you think it's funny? This guy was bragging before the battle, saying he was going to teach Dylan and Red how to fight, even calling himself a senior. But now, as soon as the battle started, his Houndoom got paralyzed. Next, he's probably going to say, looks like I underestimated you, next time I won't be so careless, right? Leah chattered away, vividly mimicking the scene. Dr. Fuji was momentarily stunned by Leah's conversation, but after noticing her winking at him, he seemed to understand. Yes, it seems Archer isn't all that. Dr. Fuji was still somewhat reserved. But Archer felt his temperature rising. Dr. Fuji. This nasty, despicable, shameless, annoying clown of a woman. I really want to kill you. Well, Leah used the off-field move mental pollution, and it worked pretty well. Chapter 36, yes, the three of us are strong. Stay calm. You must stay calm in a battle. Archer kept repeating this to himself, trying not to let the underhanded tactics get to him. Arbok, use Thunder Fang. At this moment, Dylan launched an attack.
Arbok opened its menacing jaws, electricity crackling around its sharp fangs, and lunged at Houndoom.
Electric-type Thunder Fang. Houndoom. Dodge it. Wheezing, use Thunderbolt.
Archer reacted quickly, immediately giving orders to his Pokémon. Houndoom had been paralyzed by glare, but fortunately, the initial paralysis effect had worn off, and the paralysis would now trigger randomly. However, due to the paralysis, Houndoom's movements had become noticeably sluggish. But luckily, dodging a Thunder Fang was still possible. Wheezing, on the other hand, began to crackle with electricity, ready to unleash Thunderbolt on Arbok.
Flamethrower.
But just then, a scorching flame suddenly blasted towards Wheezing, hitting it directly.
It was Charizard's Flamethrower.
Archer's face twisted in frustration as Wheezing was sent flying by the flamethrower.
What was he doing just now? How could he have ignored Charizard? And at that moment... Oh dear, you've been hit. At this rate, you'll lose soon, right? You'll lose to these two youngsters, won't you, old man? Isn't that right?
Ah, yes, yes. A sarcastic, cheerful female voice chimed in, and Dr. Fuji glanced at Archer with a puzzled expression. Archer glared at Leah, who was hiding behind Dylan and Red, with a cold stare.
This wretched woman. This clown. Arbok, use Stomp. Dylan chuckled, noticing that Archer was losing his composure.
Arbok's expression grew more menacing as it lunged at Houndoom again, its powerful tail glowing with a brownish-yellow energy.
Houndoom, use Flamethrower. Dragon Claw. Red's steady voice suddenly rang out.
Charizard's claws glowed with a sharp green light as it suddenly charged at Wheezing and slashed.
Dragon-type Dragon Claw. Wheezing. Use Thunderbolt. Charizard's Dragon Claw struck Wheezing, and it immediately followed up with a Flamethrower. Although Wheezing countered with Thunderbolt, it was clearly at a disadvantage. Meanwhile, Houndoom was struck by Arbok's Stomp.
As a ground-type move, Stomp was super effective against Houndoom. Especially since Thunder Fang had missed earlier, Stomp's power was now doubled, dealing a heavy blow to Houndoom.
And with Houndoom still paralyzed, how could it possibly fight back? In the blink of an eye, the situation had turned dire. Archer was starting to panic.
Archer's pale, shadowed face was now filled with gloom. The strength of Dylan and Red had exceeded his expectations, but the most infuriating part was that female clown. Wow, Archer-senpai, your Houndoom has fainted.
TSK, it doesn't seem to be much of a challenge, huh? Arbok doesn't even have a scratch on it. Leah clicked her tongue in amazement, continuing her psychological warfare.
As she looked at the backs of Dylan and Red in front of her, Leah's eyes narrowed in a smile.
Yes, the three of us are strong.
Archer's face twitched as he recalled his fainted Houndoom, his icy gaze sweeping over Leah.
With Houndoom out of commission, the outcome of the battle was clear. And Archer clearly had no intention of sending out any more Pokémon. Oh, Archer-senpai, your gaze is so frightening. You wouldn't blame me just because you lost the battle, would you?
Leah showed no fear, even pretending to be scared as she hugged herself, speaking pitifully. Archer's lips twitched, and then he forced a stiff smile.
Ha ha ha. A low, rumbling laugh seemed to squeeze out of his throat. Good. Very good. The younger generation these days is truly remarkable.
Archer ignored the female clown and instead focused his gaze on Dylan and Red, offering genuine praise. Indeed, his earlier mistakes in the battle might have been slightly influenced by that female clown.
But he had to admit, these two young men were extremely talented. Are you interested in joining Team Rocket? I can personally recommend you to the boss. Believe me, Team Rocket will offer you generous rewards.
Archer recalled his badly injured Wheezing and extended an earnest invitation to the two of them.
These were real talents.
Red remained silent.
Mr. Archer, are you joking with us? Given your current situation, you still want to recruit us? Dylan spoke with a slight smile.
He was indeed interested in Team Rocket, but had no desire to join them. A wise bird chooses the right tree to nest in, and with a wealthy benefactor in his corner, his future was bright.
Why join Team Rocket and become a public enemy?
There is only one true ruler in this world, and that is the Pokemon League.
Plus, the position of League Champion is open to anyone skilled enough. If power and status were his goals, Dylan could simply challenge the Indigo Plateau. Of course, I won't deny that I've lost this battle.
Archer seemed to regain his composure, adopting his signature pose with his right hand behind his back. But this mission isn't a complete failure, and Team Rocket will ultimately succeed.
Oh? Dylan and the others frowned slightly at his words, glancing at Dr. Fuji. Wasn't Dr. Fuji the target of Team Rocket's mission?
Dr. Fuji looked just as puzzled when he met Dylan and Red's gazes.
Dr. Fuji is indeed important and was my primary objective. What a pity.
Archer gave Dr. Fuji a regretful look.
Dr. Fuji, I sincerely urge you to return to the organization. Whether for yourself or for those children, you understand, don't you?
Dr. Fuji hesitated, his expression conflicted.
What nonsense!
You're just a loser.
Grandpa, don't listen to him. This guy is about to become a prisoner. Leah was clearly annoyed. What was Archer trying to pull?
Besides, she had already notified the Vermilion City Police. Officer Jenny and her team were surely on their way by now. Not a single member of Team Rocket on this ship would escape.
Mr. Archer, do you really think you can leave here safely?
Dylan held a pokeball in his hand.
Archer's calm demeanor, did he have another trick up his sleeve? Ha ha ha. I will remember this loss. We will meet again, young men.
And if you ever change your mind, Team Rocket will always welcome you. Archer began to retreat quietly.
Arbok. Charizard.
Dylan and Red immediately commanded their Pokemon, not willing to let Archer escape. To Red, this Team Rocket executive was too dangerous. To Dylan, it didn't really matter if Archer was captured or not. If captured, the League would offer some rewards. If not, the ongoing conflict between Team Rocket and the Kanto League would only become more interesting.
He could just sit back and enjoy the show. So, either way was fine.
Oh dear Archer, it seems you're in quite a predicament. Suddenly, a mocking voice came from behind Archer. A green-haired youth in a black uniform slowly approached, clicking his tongue as he looked at Archer, then glanced at Dylan and the others.
Executive Proton. Dylan raised an eyebrow.
This person was indeed Proton, another one of Team Rocket's executives.
Oh, you know me, kid? Looks like I'm getting famous. Proton grinned. There are actually two executives here. Leah's expression darkened.
This was news to her, and it was definitely troublesome. Archer and Proton, two Team Rocket executives.
Not two, but three. Proton smiled and corrected her. There were 3 Team Rocket executives on board?
Leah and Red both looked slightly alarmed.
Is the mission complete? Archer asked Proton softly.
Of course, it wasn't difficult.
Proton shrugged. Then let's retreat. Archer nodded.
At least one of their objectives had been achieved. The League members will probably arrive soon.
It's not safe to stay any longer. Okay, I'll follow your lead.
You're the commander. Proton spread his hands, then curiously looked at Dylan and the others. He had received a secret communication from Archer, which indicated that Archer might have been in trouble.
Was it because of these 3 young people? Should we stop them? We could delay them until Officer Jenny arrives. Leah whispered to Dylan and Red.
Red remained silent, his red eyes turning to Dylan for his opinion.
3 executives. That's too dangerous.
At least we've ensured the safety of the passengers.
Dylan pondered for a moment before suggesting the safest course of action.
Leah and Red, understanding the situation, did not argue. Though letting Archer go was frustrating, the threat posed by 3 executives was too great. None of Team Rocket's executives were pushovers. Even if they weren't Elite 4 level trainers, they were close to that level of strength.
Proton's target clearly wasn't Dr. Fuji, so what was the other objective? Dylan wondered, feeling as though he had missed something important. Chapter 37, Dylan. I challenge you.
Archer and Proton retreated, and this operation was undoubtedly a failure. After all, for Archer, Dr. Fuji was the main target, and it took them a lot of effort to locate him. But there was no choice, at least another objective was achieved. On Dylan's side, they first went to the captain's quarters to rescue the poor captain and then returned to the hall. The hall was still in chaos, as the rocket members had not yet received the retreat signal.
Red, Dylan, you're back.
As soon as Ash and the others saw Dylan's group return, they immediately rushed over. Eileen walked up to Dylan, scanning him from head to toe with concern. She breathed a sigh of relief when she saw he was unharmed. After all, Archer, a senior rocket executive, was their opponent, and Eileen was naturally worried.
How did it go?
Did you beat Archer?
Ash asked eagerly.
Of course. With my help, we totally thrashed Archer, Leah said proudly, her hands on her hips. Red and Dr. Fuji remained silent, while Dylan nodded in agreement.
Wow! Amazing! No surprise from you guys. What about Archer? Didn't you catch him?
Ash and his friends were thrilled. No, the Rockets had more than one senior executive on this mission, so we decided not to pursue. Dylan shook his head. Even if they had 3 senior rocket executives, it would have been difficult to delay them for long. And after all, they were on the SS and in the middle of the ocean. If they pushed Archer too hard, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not to mention the numerous Voltorbs and electrodes in the hold. Although Dylan had a powerful weapon, it wasn't his Pokemon, and it was uncertain if it would help catch Archer and the others. What a pity, Ash said, disappointed. It was the right decision. The Rocket members are too reckless and could have done anything, Brock said rationally. Ensuring their own safety and that of the passengers was clearly more important than capturing Archer. The Rocket members are retreating. Misty noticed the Rockets in the hall starting to withdraw. Archer must have notified them, Dylan deduced at a glance. Don't let them escape. These scoundrels! Ash shouted with righteous indignation. It was one thing not to catch the executives, but letting the regular Rocket members escape was out of the question. Yes, let's detain them. Officer Jenny should be arriving soon, Dylan said. The rest of the task was easy. Without Archer and Proton, the remaining Rocket members were leaderless. With Dylan and Red joining the fight, they quickly defeated all the Rockets and detained them. Half an hour later, the Vermilion City Police arrived and took over the SS and, placing the Rocket members in handcuffs. Officer Jenny approached Dylan and the others. Thank you for your help. The Rockets even dared to hijack the SSN. Without your intervention, the consequences would have been unimaginable, Officer Jenny said with a serious expression, having understood the entire situation. It's what we should do, though it's a pity we couldn't capture Archer and Proton. Red remained cool, while Leah stayed out of the limelight. Dylan stepped forward to speak. You've done an excellent job. We will definitely catch those 2 dangerous individuals, Officer Jenny said, shaking her head. Archer and Proton, being rocket executives, were not easy to capture. She was more interested in the trainers who could defeat Archer. Would you mind giving us your names? I'll apply for a reward and make sure your heroic deeds are known, Officer Jenny asked with a smile, respecting Dylan and the others' decisions. Not everyone liked publicity, especially since they had antagonized Team Rocket. Dylan's eyes brightened. This was a great opportunity to advertise the Rhoda Gym. I'm Dylan, a gym leader from Rhoda. Red, blank stare. Hee, I don't need any recognition. Give my share to Dylan and Red. Leah smiled and withdrew again, not wanting to attract attention. If her organization noticed her, it would be troublesome. Dylan noticed the complex emotions in Leah's eyes. This cheerful, lively girl hid many secrets. But Dylan said nothing, as there was nothing he could do for her against that organization. All right, I understand, Officer Jenny nodded, looking curiously at Dylan. Are you also a gym leader?
Yes, I was just accompanying a friend on this cruise. I didn't expect this to happen. I'm sure you're an excellent gym leader, Officer Jenny smiled.
She hadn't heard of the Rota gym, but any gym leader who could defeat Archer would surely become famous.
I'll do my best, Dylan replied. Officer Jenny didn't stay long as there were many rocket members to process.
Fortunately, the passengers were mostly unharmed, except for one person.
On the deck, Tobias stood lost, staring at the endless horizon, his expression bleak. Mr. Tobias, rest assured, we will capture the rockets and retrieve your Pokémon, an officer said sternly, but Tobias was unresponsive. He felt his life was over, his mind returning to the moment when Proton forced him to abandon Darkrai. Tobias couldn't imagine Darkray's look when he made that choice.
His eyes welled up, and he pulled out his phone, dialing a number.
With the interference device off, the SSN was returning to Vermilion City. The call connected quickly. Tobias, are you okay? An elderly, kind voice answered. Grandpa. Hearing his grandfather's voice, Tobias couldn't hold back his tears. Grandpa, the Darkrai you gave me.
It was taken by Team Rocket.
Tobias felt both wronged and sad.
On the other end, the old man was too shocked to speak.
Darkrai was taken by Team Rocket? How did this happen?
Even with his status, a legendary Pokémon was incredibly precious.
Darkrai followed Tobias because of the old man's connection to its ancestor. Grandpa. Don't be sad, Tobias. Those rockets.
The old man's voice was tired.
Team Rocket was a pest in Kanto. I have information on Alatios.
I can give you its location, but Tobias, this is the last time I'm helping you, the old man said sternly. Finding legendary Pokémon was extremely difficult, and helping his grandson contradicted his principles. But Tobias was his grandson, so he would help one last time.
If Tobias still couldn't succeed, then so be it.
Thank you, Grandpa, Tobias said with teary eyes, understanding his grandfather's disappointment.
Damn Team Rocket. I will have my revenge.
In Vermilion City, at the Pokémon Center.
What a trip!
But it's time for me to go, Leah said, retrieving her healed Pokémon from Nurse Joy and waving goodbye to Dylan and Red.
Bye-bye, Dylan smiled. Goodbye.
Red, rarely speaking, responded. Except for family and a certain rival, he was usually silent.
Leah smiled and prepared to leave.
Red turned his gaze to Dylan, his eyes burning.
Question mark. Dylan raised an eyebrow. Dylan, I want to challenge you.
Red said eagerly. Hearing this, Leah, who was about to leave, stopped and turned around, her eyes sparkling.
Wow! Are these two powerhouses about to fight? Chapter 38, well said, come work at my gym.
Hearing Red's words, Leah really couldn't move her feet.
Her two rivals were about to battle. How could she leave? Dylan noticed Eileen looking at Red in surprise.
This young man sure had guts.
They had just returned to Vermilion City, and he was already challenging him? Betting on a badge? Dylan wasn't too surprised and smiled in response. The SSN incident didn't really affect him, and he believed Red felt the same way.
Red's eyes were blazing as he nodded. Seeing this, Dylan couldn't help but chuckle softly.
As a qualified gym leader, I won't refuse any challengers. So, Red. I accept your challenge as the leader of the Rota Gym. Dylan looked directly into the young man's scarlet eyes, speaking clearly.
Yes, as a gym leader, he had the duty to accept any challenger's challenge, even if they weren't in the Rota Gym at the moment.
Red's lips curled slightly, though very faintly. All right. I'll be the referee for your battle. Where should we fight?
Leah cheered, seemingly more excited than the two combatants.
Let's borrow the battlefield from Nurse Joy. Dylan suggested.
In fact, every Pokémon Center had a training field in the backyard. It was available for trainers who came to the Pokémon Center to use for special training.
Great. I'll go ask. Leah eagerly ran to the front desk.
Miss Joy, my two friends want to use the backyard battlefield.
Is that okay?
Leah asked sweetly, her big, watery eyes giving a hint of a playful tone.
Of course, would you like me to arrange a referee for you?
Nurse Joy, with her pink hair and gentle smile, replied softly. She was actually very busy at the moment because the SSN was docked, and many injured Pokémon were brought to the Pokémon Center.
No need, thank you, Miss Joy.
You're welcome. Leah thanked Nurse Joy and then turned to Dylan and Red, giving them an okay gesture. At the Pokémon Center's backyard,
Dylan and the others arrived there.
As a rest and treatment station set up by the Pokémon League for travelers, Pokémon Centers were established in almost every region, city, town, and village. The facilities were comprehensive, and so were the battlefields.
Some scattered trainers were also training there.
Choosing an unused field, Dylan and Red stood at opposite ends. Eileen, along with Ash's group, who had heard the news, stood on the sidelines as spectators.
Go for it, Red. Pikachu, cheer too. Pikachu.
Ash cheered enthusiastically for his dear brother and even forced his electric mouse to cheer.
Pikachu rolled its eyes before reluctantly shouting. Brock, who do you think will win? Misty asked curiously about the battle between the two. Definitely Red.
Family members of the combatants, please be quiet.
Misty glared at Ash, making him shrink his neck.
Misty's temper still left a shadow.
A battle between Dylan and Red.
Brock looked at the two standing apart, squinting his eyes in contemplation. Honestly, if it were before, I would have believed Red would win.
You might not understand, I've never seen such an outrageous rookie trainer.
Brock gazed at the boy with pure red eyes under his hat, feeling both impressed and emotional.
He has incredibly striking qualities. Red's absolute sincerity in battle is something I've never seen before. He's a born trainer.
Brock's evaluation of Red was astonishingly high, but since he had battled Red, he felt qualified to say such things. Only someone who truly and deeply loved Pokémon, loved battling, and enjoyed it immensely would possess such a quality, the passion for battle. Brock remembered vividly that before Red, another trainer from Pallet Town had also crushed him and taken his badge.
But that trainer was completely different from Red. This sincerity for battle, combined with Red's monstrous talent, would undoubtedly create a terrifying trainer. Brock believed this firmly. The Rota Gym. I hate to say it, but I remember its reputation wasn't very good, right, Eileen? Brock looked at Eileen, trying to be polite. Yes, a little over a month ago, the Rota Gym was rated one of the weakest gyms in Kanto.
Eileen spoke gently.
So it was true. Brock nodded.
He remembered because Rota wasn't far from Pewter City, so he had seen the reviews of the Rota Gym on the Kanto League's official website.
Really? But Dylan is very strong. Ash was puzzled. The Rota Gym was inherited by Dylan from his father. Back then, Dylan had just graduated from Pokémon school.
Eileen shook her head. At that time, Dylan only had a newly received Sprigatito and a few friendly Pokémon from his backyard. During that period, no matter who the challenger was, Dylan couldn't win, and the gym's reputation declined. No matter how hard Dylan tried, he couldn't win. As Dylan's companion, Eileen witnessed that period firsthand. Her tone turned somber. Ash and Brock were silent, while Misty's expression grew complex, seemingly empathizing deeply. Why did she leave Cerulean Gym in a fit of anger? It was because she wanted to travel and train herself. Her sisters had no talent as trainers. Though their water ballet performances kept Cerulean Gym popular, it was a gym, not a dance hall. Challengers mocked the badge as being practically given away, which was a huge insult to a gym meant to train challengers. So Misty traveled to become stronger and then returned to revive Cerulean Gym. But half a month ago, it was as if Dylan had an epiphany. He became very strong. He told me. Eileen looked at Dylan in the arena with gentle eyes. He will make the Rota Gym the strongest gym in Kanto. Eileen's lips curved into a happy smile. Ash blinked, Brock seemed thoughtful, and Misty was a bit stunned. What could they say? They were all quite moved. In the arena,
Now, let's start the battle for the Rota badge. The challenger is Red from Pallet Town. The battle will be 4 versus 4. If all 4 of the challenger's Pokemon are unable to battle, the challenge is over. Begin!
Leah raised a small flag, announcing the battle rules clearly, which Dylan had just told her.
Well said. If you want, you can apply to be a referee at my gym. Dylan clapped his hands, not sparing any praise for Leah. Humph, of course. How much would you pay me to work for you?
Leah crossed her arms with a proud expression.
I'm a super rich second generation. Dylan couldn't help but laugh. Sorry, money was just a number to him. Really?
Leah doubted his words. My dad is the largest shareholder of Sylph Company.
What do you think? Dylan casually flaunted his wealth. No way.
Leah was stunned and instinctively blurted out sweet words.
Wait, wasn't Dylan just a gym leader? Was he really a rich second generation? What?
Misty and Brock were also surprised, while Ash didn't quite understand the significance. Red remained silent, his sharp eyes fixed on Leah, wondering why she hadn't left the field yet.
We can talk later, it's battle time now.
Seeing Leah's eyes gleaming as if she was about to pounce on him, Dylan laughed.
Leah blinked and then wisely left the battlefield.
Red, smiling face.
Sorry to keep you waiting, Red. Dylan smiled at the red-eyed boy opposite him.
Before the battle, let me formally introduce myself.
My name is Dylan, the leader of the Rota Gym.
Dylan slowly adjusted his collar, his movements casual yet inexplicably free-spirited.
My current specialty is the poison type. Have you ever battled against poison-type Pokemon? Poison will leave you helpless and miserable.
Dylan's lips curled into a smile as he took out a minimized Pokeball, twirling it deftly.
It's not just about absolute power. Experience the fear and horror of poison-type Pokemon. Facing Dylan's declaration, Red's eyes grew even brighter. Bring it on!
Red slightly lowered the brim of his hat, the shadow covering his blazing red eyes, gripping his Pokeball tightly.
He couldn't wait. Trainer Red. Here to challenge. Chapter 39, The Privileges of the Wealthy. Whoa, are they about to have a formal battle? Using the scoreboard too, it seems so. Wonder what their skill levels are like. Wow! It's the 2 big shots from the ship. As Dylan and Red prepared to battle, a small crowd began to gather around them, whispering amongst themselves. Brock, could you do me a favor? Miss Eileen, please, go ahead. Brock was initially surprised but quickly regained his composure.
Even though he knew the extraordinary relationship between Eileen and Dylan, helping a beautiful sister without hesitation was his creed.
Of course, if it was something unethical, Brock would refuse. Could you record this battle for me? I'm not very good with this. Eileen handed the drone camera to Brock apologetically. Let me see. Brock squinted his eyes, took the drone and controller, fiddled with it a bit, and successfully launched it.
Brock then found the best angle and stopped the drone, nodding in satisfaction as he watched the feed.
As expected of you, Brock. Eileen sighed in relief. Miss Eileen, why did you suddenly want to record this battle? Misty asked curiously. Because Red is a very strong trainer.
This battle will surely be exciting and memorable.
Eileen smiled in response.
Of course, she had a bit of a personal agenda.
If she could upload this battle online, it would attract a lot of attention, which could also bring traffic to the Rota Gym. Of course, Eileen would have to ask for Dylan and Red's permission after the battle. On the battlefield. Arbok. Prepare for battle. Dylan threw his first Pokeball backward.
A large, robust purple cobra landed in front of Dylan, slowly raising its upper body and flicking its tongue, glaring at Red with a cold gaze.
Dylan didn't start with his Glimmet, even though its corrosion ability was very suitable as a lead Pokemon.
However, it would struggle against Red's Blastoise, not only being countered but also because corrosion only activated when hit by physical attacks. Additionally, Blastoise knew Rapid Spin, a move that could clear the field.
It's that Arbok again. Ash took out his Pokédex, even though he had already recorded Arbok. Beep Arbok, Poison type, Cobra Pokemon. Ability, Intimidate. Moves, Sludge Bomb, Glare, Toxic Spikes, Venom Drench, Fire Fong, Ice Fong, Thunder Fong, Earthquake, Gunk Shot. Description: the pattern on its belly looks like a terrifying face. Weak opponents will flee at the sight of this pattern. Wow! So many moves, it looks super strong. Misty widened her eyes. This Arbok was extraordinary. Arbok is one of Dylan's favorite main Pokemon, so he has taught it many moves.
Eileen smiled as she explained.
This is how the rich teach their Pokemon. Leah marveled. While there were many ways for Pokemon to learn moves, such as self-realization, special training, or being taught by others, the simplest way was using TMs. However, TMs were not cheap due to their convenience. For Dylan, this was not a problem.
Sylph Company was a top-tier global enterprise, and his dad was the largest shareholder, earning astronomical dividends each year. Therefore, Dylan's allowance was in the millions, and he could have as many TMs as he wanted. Moreover, according to Ito a few days ago, Sylph Company was making the most powerful Pokeball yet, which would be rare due to the special materials required.
Yes, Ito had ordered one for Dylan. Blastoise. Red also quickly threw his first Pokeball.
In a flash of white light, a large, bipedal blue turtle Pokemon landed heavily in front of Red, glaring fiercely at Arbok.
It was Blastoise, the final evolution of Squirtle. Deep Blastoise, Water-type, turtle Pokemon. Ability, Torrent. Moves, Hydro Pump, Iron Defense, Shell Smash, Aqua Tail, Rain Dance, Protect, Rapid Spin, Flash Cannon, Water Spout, Egg Move.
Description: its heavy body can cause opponents to faint when pinned down. It hides in its shell when in danger.
Awesome! As expected of Red's Blastoise. Seeing the imposing Blastoise, Ash was very excited. So cool! He also had a Squirtle and believed it would evolve like this in the future. A pure Water-type Blastoise versus a pure Poison-type Arbok. Neither has a type advantage. Brock held his chin while adjusting the drone's camera position. Starting with Blastoise, huh? Dylan squinted slightly, his eyes flickering with thought. He was formulating a strategy. Blastoise's rapid spin could clear corrosion, so this Blastoise had to be dealt with quickly. The sooner it was defeated, the better. However, judging by its oppressive presence, this Blastoise was undoubtedly strong. Arbok.
Arbok let out a raspy hiss, releasing an invisible pressure that enveloped the area.
Blastoise's white glow faded, its Intimidate ability lowering Blastoise's physical attack by one stage.
Arbok slowly swayed its tail, its cold eyes full of anticipation.
Arbok, use Earthquake. Dylan made the first move. Arbok's strong tail swung up and then slammed down heavily on the ground. A ground-type Earthquake.
Rumbling sounds erupted as the battlefield shook violently, sending a tangible shockwave forward.
Under the intense tremors, Blastoise's body wobbled uncontrollably.
If not for its strong base, it might have toppled.
Blastoise, Rapid Spin.
Red's voice was calm and steady.
Blastoise quickly retracted its limbs and head into its shell, spinning rapidly into the air.
Earthquake could only affect grounded opponents, and Blastoise, floating with rapid spin, naturally avoided the attack.
Hydro Pump. Red wasn't just trying to dodge.
From the spinning shell, a powerful water jet shot out, heading straight for Arbok. A water-type Hydro Pump.
Sucker Punch. Arbok's eyes flashed with dark energy, and its large body turned into a purple serpent shadow, darting toward Blastoise. A Dark-type priority move, Sucker Punch. This was Arbok's egg move. With Sucker Punch's speed boost, Arbok dodged Hydro Pump effortlessly. It swiftly reached beneath Blastoise, coiling its body before leaping up to strike. Can't dodge this. Red instantly understood.
In Sucker Punch's state, Arbok's leaping speed was too fast.
Even with rapid spin, Blastoise couldn't outpace it. However, Red remained calm. Blastoise's shell was extremely hard.
Arbok's sucker punch landed on the rapidly spinning Blastoise, its tail shrouded in dark light striking hard against Blastoise's shell.
Sucker punch. Thud. A dull thud echoed, resonating with the hardness of Blastoise's shell.
Arbok felt as if its tail had struck steel, even causing it pain. The spinning Blastoise was knocked back and stopped, falling to the ground.
Hydro pump. Red commanded instantly. The falling Blastoise's cannons glowed with water energy. Two massive water jets, one in front and one behind, shot toward the also descending Arbok. Sludge bomb. Arbok opened its mouth, launching dark purple sludge bombs, a poison-type sludge bomb. Boom, boom, boom.
Sludge bombs clashed with the hydro pumps, exploding loudly, but soon one hydro pump broke through, continuing towards Arbok.
In terms of special attacks, Arbok couldn't compete with Blastoise.
The hydro pump struck Arbok directly, causing it to cry out in pain and crash to the ground. Blastoise, though also falling, suffered little damage. Its hard shell blocked the attack, taking minimal harm. Undoubtedly, Red held the advantage in the first round.
As expected of you, Red. Dylan smiled, unfazed by this temporary setback. The first round was merely a probe, and it was clear that Arbok's raw power wasn't enough against Blastoise.
Beating Red in a straight battle was very tough, as his strength and Pokémon levels were high.
Yes, Dylan needed to use some other tactics. Chapter 40, Agony. Impressive. Dylan is truly impressive. Ash's eyes sparkled when he saw Blastoise's hydro pump finally hit Arbok. Indeed, Blastoise's shell defense is excellent, making Arbok's fierce attack nearly ineffective, Brock praised. Blastoise's ability to counterattack was due to its shell blocking Arbok's assault. But this Arbok is also very strong.
I've never seen an Arbok raised this well, Misty chimed in, blinking in amazement. She knew that Agatha, one of the Elite Four, also had an Arbok, reportedly quite special, but Misty had never seen it herself.
Undoubtedly, this Dylan Arbok was the strongest she'd ever seen. The recent ambush was incredibly fast.
If it were her Starmie, it might not have reacted in time and would have been hit.
But Red will definitely win. Ash had absolute confidence in his brother. Without breaking through Blastoise's shell, Arbok indeed has little chance, Brock mused, knowing Arbok wasn't adept at special attacks. The earlier clash of Sludge Bomb and Hydro Pump proved that Arbok's physical attacks couldn't penetrate Blastoise's shell and thus couldn't cause much damage. On the surface, Arbok seemed to have no chance, which was reasonable. You can't be sure.
Dylan has said he's actually better at using poison. Leah's beautiful eyes sparkled slightly, and she spoke with a smile.
Yes, that's a significant variable. Brock looked at Dylan curiously.
Poison-type trainers were very rare, and he was eager to see how Dylan would perform.
On the battlefield. Blastoise. Water gun.
Red slightly lowered his cap, his red eyes under the brim fixed on Arbok, and he initiated the attack. Blastoise opened its mouth, blue light flashing, and then sprayed a massive amount of water, surging towards Arbok like a flood.
The exaggerated water volume shocked many onlookers. Water-type water gun.
It's one of Blastoise's inherited moves, known for its powerful special attack because its power depends on the user's stamina. In its current good state, Blastoise's water gun was exceptionally powerful, nearly covering half the battlefield and leaving Arbok almost no room to dodge.
Dig, Dylan chuckled.
Arbok's cold eyes stared at Blastoise behind the water, then suddenly burrowed underground.
Ground-type dig. As the name suggests, it allows the user to dig underground.
The water from water gun flooded Arbok's previous position, with much of it flowing into the dug hole, but it clearly didn't affect Arbok.
On the battlefield surface, only Blastoise was visible. Rapid spin. Red's eyes flashed. The best way to counter dig was with Earthquake, but Blastoise hadn't learned that move yet. So it was simple. Blastoise retracted its limbs and spun rapidly, rising into the air. Arbok. A 4-meter-long purple cobra suddenly sprang from the ground beneath Blastoise, lunging at it. Arbok was also enveloped in a faint yellowish-brown glow, the energy of dig. Bang!
Dig hit Blastoise hard, making it shudder and halting its rapid spin, knocking it back slightly. But like the previous ambush, Dig struck the shell, causing limited damage.
Hydro Pump.
Red immediately commanded Blastoise to counterattack, but then frowned. This time, Arbok didn't pause after the attack but lunged at the nearby Blastoise again, its long body wrapping around Blastoise's shell several times.
This was normal type wrap, binding the opponent tightly.
Blastoise growled in discomfort, glaring at Arbok's head, which returned a cold stare.
Red was silent.
In this situation, Hydro Pump couldn't hit Arbok since Blastoise used it either from its mouth or its back cannons.
But there were many ways to break wrap. Withdraw. Red calmly ordered, using water-type withdraw.
Blastoise's limbs and head retracted into its shell, and a white light glowed, boosting its defense by 1 level.
Arbok. Thunder Fawn. Dylan gestured to Arbok. Arbok understood instantly, bearing fangs crackling with electricity, though it was merely a feint. Arbok thrust its head into Blastoise's shell, pretending to use Thunder Fawn but actually spraying dark purple venom inside, covering Blastoise's retracted head. Blastoise was bewildered. Wasn't it supposed to be Thunder Fawn? Euro Ball. Red frowned, sensing something was wrong, but he couldn't let Arbok cling to Blastoise.
Despite the uncomfortable venom on its face, Blastoise began to spin rapidly.
Steel-type Euro Ball.
A metallic sheen appeared on Blastoise, and the increasingly fast spinning made Arbok unable to hold on, flinging it to the ground.
Blastoise immediately turned to attack Arbok, but then a dark purple glow appeared on the Euro Ball.
Red noticed this, his eyes narrowing.
What was this?
Euro Ball's speed decreased, and though it hit Arbok, the impact wasn't strong due to the reduced speed. Euro Ball's power depends on the speed difference, and since Blastoise and Arbok had similar speeds, the move wasn't very powerful.
More importantly, Blastoise's unusual condition drew attention. Blastoise extended its limbs and stood, eyes shut tightly, its face twisted in pain, clearly suffering from severe poisoning.
Its entire body flickered with a dark purple glow, with poison spots visible on its limbs and head.
Such obvious symptoms needed no explanation, it was poisoned. And it was badly poisoned. Red frowned. What is this? Poison. But when did it happen? But Dylan didn't command Arbok to use toxic. Impressive.
Ash and the others were stunned and bewildered.
Thunder Fawn was a ruse. Toxic was the real attack. Red understood now. If it were truly Thunder Fawn, biting Blastoise would have spread the electricity.
The initial poisoning passed quickly, and Blastoise glared at Arbok, the poison's pain fresh in its memory. If not for its strong will, it might not have been able to continue Euro Ball. But being poisoned made the battle difficult.
Red's eyes flashed. Arbok, Earthquake. Dylan smiled slightly. Arbok's tail glowed yellow, smashing into the ground upon landing. Boom! Ground-type Earthquake.
The ground trembled, and the shockwaves spread out.
Rapid spin. Red quickly strategized.
Everything was going well, but the poison changed it.
Toxic wasn't ordinary, its effects worsened over time. Blastoise spun into the air, dodging the earthquake.
Though it had just been poisoned, the damage wasn't too high yet, so Blastoise could still fight.
Water gun.
Blastoise, midair, stretched out its head and limbs, and blue energy glowed in its mouth. The next moment, a massive flood-like water stream gushed out, far more impressive than surf.
Ambush. Dylan opted for ambush instead of dig.
Arbok's eyes flashed with black light as it swiftly moved forward, fast as lightning.
Dark-type ambush.
Arbok reached Blastoise's previous position quickly, just as Water Gun began to fall. In the next moment, Arbok leapt, shooting towards the falling Blastoise.
Blastoise. Withdraw.
Red's voice was steady. Withdraw, then counter with Hydro Pump, should work.
But the worry became reality.
Blastoise stopped Water Gun and tried to retract into its shell, but halfway through, the dark purple venom flared up again, causing excruciating pain and halting its movement.
The poison struck. Bang! Arbok's ambush hit Blastoise's head, making it grunt and fall heavily to the ground. Earthquake! Arbok's tail glowed yellow again, smashing the ground upon landing. Earthquake! Boom! The severe tremor, combined with the poison's erosion, caused Blastoise immense pain. Hissing sounds from onlookers and Misty indicated their empathy. Just watching, one could sense Blastoise's agony. The series of attacks was terrifying.
That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.